but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, the professionals, with myself, Mitch and Stu. Good evening, chaps.
Good evening, Steve. How are you?
Good to see you. And Mitch,
Evening,
you
mate.
okay?
Aye, all good.
Good stuff. Okay, always plenty to talk about on this show. And we'll start with Eddie Howe, who has released a 6.5-minute video on NUFC TV, courtesy of the club's website and on their official YouTube channel. As always, great to hear Eddie Howe speaking about Newcastle United, the team, and obviously the players are back. Not all of them, of course. The internationals are still on a little bit of an extended break, but a lot of the players are back in and into pre-season training. Eddie Howe, the gist of it, if you haven't watched it, lads, was that he set them all their own training regimes over the 5 weeks that they've had off, and in his own words, everybody has come back in A1 condition. Everyone's followed those plans. Everyone's followed everything, all the guidance given, dietary, exercise, and no issues whatsoever. Obviously, from his perspective, we've got Nick Pope, who won't be using his hands for the next couple of weeks. He's still recovering from surgery, of course. Emil Kraft's still a little way behind the others because obviously the injury he had was quite severe, and Willock not far away from back to full training with the first team, but also treating him, very carefully because obviously he had an injury at the back end of last season. But the footage today of Eddie Howe on the training ground pitch with the likes of Kieran Trippier, of course, we saw him with Sandro this week, going around and meeting him and welcoming him into the club. And then we had Elliot Anderson there, Sean Longstaff, Jacob Murphy, of course, those two been training up at Blue Star using their facilities prior to this. So it's good. It's the start of the season, not officially, Mitch, but the lads are coming back into training slowly but surely, and the excitement starts to build now.
Yeah, and as ever, professional as ever, sit down and lay these things out before the summer, and then to see the squad coming back, having all acted on what was laid out before the summer. What a refreshing difference, and I think when you look at it, it's a big message, because you remember what he said when he came in about this squad, a lot of whom were very much still there when he came in and he did the fitness levels test that he wanted at, and he couldn't believe the levels they were at. And now we've heard lots of people talking about within the squad over the summer, there's being fit and there's being Eddie Howe fit. And that does seem to be the massive difference, that he wants everybody performing at a level that is way beyond what a lot of clubs seem to be happy to have that players coming back in. I think we've seen Anthony Gordon, certainly. We'll talk about him later, I'm quite sure. If you look at what he's done in that under-21 tournament, there's absolutely no doubt he's benefited from coming in our system in January and then becoming fitter as a result. And it's just delightful to see the spirit almost not just kept at the same level, it's almost already going up. And that's before we've even kicked the ball in anger. You can't knock that, can you?
No, definitely not. Mitch, when I go to Stu, I'll let you go out and come back in. There seems to be a slight delay on your feed, and I'm not sure whether it's the internet at your end. So I'll let you go out and come back in, mate.
Okay.
Stu, your thoughts on just, the start of the season? It isn't, but it's, it's the first interview we've heard from Eddie Howe, and it sounds like, very much as if it's, more of the same from Eddie.
Yeah, but having an Eddie Howe interview feels like the start of the season again, doesn't it? It's getting closer now. But the training plans or fitness regimes, they're not new. That's something that's been done for a long time. What is new is the fact that the players have adhered to them. and I know that from personal knowledge. Now, whether they all have or not, I don't think Eddie Howe is going to then turn around and say, yes, he wasn't fit, etc., etc. But I would be gobsmacked if none of them were. They're all at it. They all want to be part of this growth that the club's going through. They all want to be acknowledged and recognised and play their part in it. And it has a professional feel to it, doesn't it? Like, as in, they want to achieve together. So it's no surprise that they've all come back. Not as fit as a lot. They'll be as fit as they can be, but then I'm sure any of these staff will get them fitter again. But it's great to see. It's great to hear, and it's great to see.
Yeah, Mitch, welcome back. Mitch is being dubbed like a Chinese martial arts movie. Yeah, that sounds better, mate. It's like an 80s satellite link up, says Tom. We've got it sorted anyway. Yeah, you mentioned Anthony Gordon. Eddie Howe was asked the question by the guy at the club, whose name escapes me, whether it gave him food for thought that Anthony Gordon had been playing up front for England. He, as usual, managed to swerve the question in his usual fashion, by saying that, players who can play in more than one position are going to be very useful moving forward in this season. Certainly didn't say he was going to play himself forward, but Barry's getting annoyed in the chat saying, I wish people would stop asking him that question. But I don't want to speak about that. I want to speak about the under-21 performance. I mean, didn't concede a goal, Mitch, and Anthony Gordon scored a couple, an assist as well, and player of the tournament. I mean, ultimately, couldn't have gone any better for the lad, could it?
And for me, rightly so. I watched bits and pieces because obviously it seems like you guys didn't get many of the games other than the final. Being Sports out the air only had the final on. I watched most of our games on German TV. The feed I had was from Sat.1, but mainly that's because I can understand the commentary. And to be fair, in the semi-final, the first half was just before I think we pre-recorded Geordie's Here, Geordie's There, so I'd watched the first half. And the German commentators in the first half were literally raving about Anthony Gordon in the false 9 position. They couldn't get enough of it, and they couldn't talk enough about what he'd done in the tournament. They were enthralled with his play, and that says a lot. You're listening to former German internationals who normally I don't think would give an England under 21 squad the lickings of a dog, genuinely gushing about the performance and about the way they were playing. Quite scared about the way Israel played against them, about basically trying to slow the game down all the time, and they gave the advantage to us by being basically, once we went 1-0, their formation was there to spoil us from playing, and they didn't know what else to do. But they were very, very impressed with Gordon, his movement, his pace, his ability to drag people out wide and create space for other players. And he's earned that absolutely 100% for me from what I've seen in all the games. The work rate and the effort is second to none. And again, you could see from his fitness and physicality, there was a difference between him and the other England players as well. There's no, in my mind, no doubt about that. And you're talking about players who are not necessarily involved in their first teams all the time, but you hear everything about them at Man City and places like that. And yeah, well deserved from Gordon, totally.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, good one, Derek. He says, last time I saw legs like yours, Steve, they were going for £80 on the Antiques Roadshow. Thanks very much, mate. David Dickinson's legs. I think that's what I've got. Yeah, Scott, I mean, from your point of view, Stu, Scotland's your team, but England's under 21s in the grand scheme of things. The result doesn't mean much to you, but Anthony Gordon as a player does, and what a tournament for the lad. And I watched his interview on the pitch when he was presented with it, and they managed to catch him. I think it was the official England TV channel who interviewed him, and he goes, "Yeah, this isn't for me. This is for the lads." You know what I mean? It's all about these guys. You know what I mean? He says it's such a great team to play in, etc. And I thought that was just another wonderful character trait of the kid, because he could have, he could have just took it and said, yeah, well, it's been a great tournament, I've learned a lot, blah, 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 but he straight away passed it on to the lads, you know what I mean, which shows the makeup of the player.
Yeah, well, I was going to start saying I didn't realise there was a tournament on, but you beat us to it by minutes.
Way!
But thankfully, the three favourite words that we've been saying a lot on this show has been trust the process. And thankfully, we've also been very big advocates of Anthony Gordon and his potential and his ability. And what he's shown to me, not just in the tournament, but since he's signed, he's humble, he's intelligent, he's articulate, and he's also willing to graft and earn his place. I know he's well liked amongst the squad, but being one of the lads is different to being known as a regular starter. So what he's done in the last few weeks is probably given him the power to good. And to me, he's probably the type of lad that won't want to take a break. He'll want to get back at it as soon as he can. And, I can imagine in his Scouse twang trying to convince anyhow that, look, I'll take a break when the internationals are on and stuff like that, So it's great to see that the decision that was made, and it has been criticised by a lot of people, the signing of Anthony Gordon, but it's went a long way to be vindicated, the way he's performed, and to be named, not just to win it's a massive achievement as well, but to be named as player of the tournament. I know he doesn't want the praise, but inside he's got to be chuffed a bit with that, and as we all are for him. I think it's a massive thing. And when it says Anthony Gordon, Newcastle United, it's extra for us as well. And, so let him get back. Let's not expect too much of him. Let him grow naturally. And I think he's going to be huge for us in the coming years. I really do. He's got pace to burn, which we didn't see much of, to be fair. It was as if he was holding back or didn't have the confidence to open his legs in the footballing term. And the way he's went about that tournament, he's went there thinking, I'm as good as any of these in this team, if not better, and I'm going to lead by example. And he played a role that he's not naturally used to, and he did it with aplomb, and he did it by setting examples. And you've got to give the lad every credit it's worth. And he seems, as I said earlier, humble enough and focused enough to keep his feet in the ground and keep wanting to develop and get better. And that's the mindset that we need. And we've discussed this many times. You don't need superstars or prima donnas, shall I say, coming into the squad. You want people who are very good and want to get better as part of the team. And he's definitely ticking all the boxes for us at the moment.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And stealing Roger Cook's line in the chat, toffees are supposed to be sweet, aren't they, Mitch? Not salty.
Aye.
Everton not really giving him any credit at all.
It's beyond bitter, isn't it? Really, it's quite cross. If they had any level of class, whoever runs their social media team, they would have at least, while they're talking about ex-Blues and current under-21 players, have the decency to give a nod towards the player of the tournament who, until recently, we kept being told was one of their own. It's sad, but it is how it is. Everton have got their own problems to deal with. It's a club in turmoil, in strife, with internal problems. Fans turning on owners, fans turning on fans. Sound familiar? It's not us, though.
Yeah, it is sour grapes, isn't it, Stu?
Absolutely, it is. But I don't know, let them crack on. They're just showing for what they are. And like yourself, Steve, I've got friends in Liverpool, and the vast majority of them are good people. But they can say that about Newcastle. We've got some right wallopers in our fan base as well. So it's always the minority that spoil it for the majority. But the way he was hounded out, I think he's shown that he's mature up beyond his years. And if anything, it's fueled him to prove everyone wrong and to prove a point and become the best he can be. And that can only be for our benefit and to Everton's detriment. So if they can't give him credit and they can mention an ex-coach but not an ex-player, that's fine. But remember, without our money, they could be in big financial implications if we hadn't bought them. So they should be a bit more grateful.
Yeah. Okay. In the news today as well was the announcement that Paul Dummett and Karius have both signed extensions. Yes. Well, you did say there would be a new signing, Stu. You did say there'd be a new signing, so you were right. But with another year to Karius' contract, another year to Dummett, it forced these two questions, Mitch. Do you think Dubravka will go? Do you think Karius will be the second keeper for Eddie Howe? And Tom just wants to know, do you think it was a good good idea to extend Paul Dummett's contract? I guess, a lot of this is down to, homegrown, academy player, etc. Plus he's good around the dressing room, which is what Eddie Howe said today. The Karius one is interesting because it was a Willie Won't situation at the back end of last season, but quite clearly he's made an impression. And I mean, a rather strange situation that he only played in the cup final last year due to Nick Pope being sent off.
And in unusual circumstances, he was thrust into it. And you can't say he let me down. You just can't. And I think he held himself with great dignity throughout the season, last season when he came. He's a player who's had a lot of chuck on his shoulders out of circumstance, and it was a shame he didn't pick up a winner's medal in that final, because that would have been his redemption arc complete. But at the same time, he's done no wrong, and he seems to be somebody again who's liked around the dressing room and liked around the place. Dummett's a no-brainer in terms of the Champions League squad and experience and what he can bring, and that again, he's liked around the squad, he's liked around the dressing room, and I suspect he, with a few others, will be nudged towards the under-21s and under-23s in terms of giving them the feeling for what it means to be a Newcastle United player, what it means to be part of our dressing room as someone who's gone through the academy system and is black and white through and through. I've always said we don't necessarily need a team full of Geordies, but for me, I think what we do need is as many people around who can impart the essence of the place on the people. Whether they're Geordies or not is irrelevant. Have as many people around who can impress into young people around the dressing room what it means to the club, the city, the community, to pull that shirt on and do what you do. And he's able, if we really needed some cover in the Champions League squad, it's a squad position filled, which we are struggling to fill because of the problems we've had with the academy, etc., and our own players. So it makes perfect sense for me to give him another year.
Okay, what's your views on it, Stu? Two players, obviously, signed on the dotted line for another year.
Yeah, just to repeat, Mitch, I think Dummett's a no-brainer. As much as the social media warriors want, we can't change a full squad in one window or two windows or even three windows. And there's certain requirements for the Champions League, which we never thought would be. Dummett is Newcastle through and through. We went to the same school at different times together, which is Kenton School. So I'm always going to defend the lad, but he's one of those that, to me, he's never let us down. You can't really point and say he's had a bad game. He's always been a solid 7 out of 10 for me. And his heart's definitely in Newcastle, and he's got to be good around the squad. And there's players in that squad that shouldn't be there, and we all know who they are without pointing fingers and naming names. But he's got to be more beneficial to keeping the squad in. It's just an extra year, probably on a lower salary, but it's money for old rope. For as far as we're concerned, it's just it's just crumbs off the table for what we're generating. But for him, it gives him the opportunity to stay at his hometown club and even maybe he's get a run out in the Champions League. And how many Geordies can actually say that? I played for Newcastle in the Champions League. We could probably name on one hand the amount of Geordies that could say that. So hopefully he gets the opportunity to do that. Regarding Karius, I know Mitch's dad's going to be ecstatic that he's staying, and for reasons other than footballing. But he's an accomplished goalkeeper. We shouldn't have to be good to defend someone like Karius. If he was no good, they wouldn't be offering him a new contract. I think he'd be a fantastic number 2, number 3. And I think he proved at the final when he played. I don't think he made a mistake. I thought he was very good. And imagine that thrust upon you on the expectations of thousands and thousands of Geordies, a whole nation of Geordies, expecting or hoping that he can save a penalty or do something that helps us win it. And he took it in his stride. And again, I will repeat, he's been judged on one game and one game alone. But to be good enough to be chosen for that game, he's got to be a good goalkeeper. And to have someone like that in our setup, again, without having to sign someone of that experience and that ability, yeah, to me, it's good accountancy from us, and it's shrewd. I think the biggest thing against him signing would have been his pregnant wife in Italy, and she wanted him closer to home. So they've obviously ironed out the personal side of it. And whether that means Dubravka stays at 2 or goes to 3, Darlow's quite clearly gone. Gillespie can stay squad-wise. That'll help with the homegrown quota. But we've discussed earlier that, you can run with 24 for the European Games. You don't have to have 25 and X amount, so you can't be short. And realistically, when the European Games are played, you won't need more than 19 or 20 maximum anyway. So getting Carrius in on terms that he's happy with, getting Dummett on terms that he's happy with, adds up to 2 happy people going back into the squad who are familiar with the players who are there to welcome new players that come in, and that can only set Newcastle on an even brighter road for next season.
Yeah. Thoroughly agree. I did like this message that Mark said. He mentioned, just backing up what we said before, he said, how bitter are Everton Football Club, but congratulating Lee Carsley as an ex-Blue and not mentioning Gordon sums them up comically. Then said, just with regards to the Eddie Howe morale, he says, just shows how much Eddie Howe prioritises the morale of the dressing room, a bit like us and the morale of our hut in Africa. Very, very good, mate. Very good. Okay, Kenny says, Mitch, I watched the hour of Britain's biggest football scandal. Interesting. But if I feel City are in a lot of trouble, great watch. Thanks. We've shared this amongst the NUFC Matters community because, ultimately, I think we all just wanted to get a bit more of an understanding as to why Manchester City were banned for 2 years from the Champions League and then suddenly found themselves back in it. And it's interesting. It's on YouTube. The link's being posted by most of us on Twitter. Whoever you follow, you'll be able to find it there. What was your take on that, Mitch? And where do you think this particular situation is going to end?
Well, I think that's two very interesting questions. As you're well aware, myself and Mr. Hasty have spent a lot of time over the last 5 or 6 years and before looking into football finance and how it works. And the digger you deep, the murkier it gets. And just when you think you've got a handle on it, something comes out from somewhere the way you think, well, hang on a minute, how's that work? I've never known a business ran the way football clubs can be run. You can't run a normal business like them. If I ran a business, it's anything greater than 50% wages to turnover for a long period of time, I'd give myself 18 months. And yet clubs have been running it greater than that for longer and longer and longer. Man City are in trouble. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But the problem we have is football regulators and football bodies seem to have very little confidence in their own rules, seem to have very little confidence in their ability to apply their own rules. And this is why you see situations where Man City, 115 charges plus from the Premier League, gets referred to a commission. Everton's FFP situation, which, yes, we helped them a little bit with Gordon, but that's a drop in the ocean from how bad it'll be. It's a drop in the ocean from how bad I understand it would be. Referred to a commission. And that tells me they're either unwilling, unable, or don't have the confidence in their own rules to apply the rules accordingly and make decisions. Then you see Man City using the Court of Arbitration for sport to get out of their problems in UEFA, and that happens repeatedly. There's a number of clubs that have used CAS and been able to find loopholes and ways to bend things to get sanctions removed or at least alleviated or made less severe, they seem to love low-hanging fruit. Red Star Belgrade banned from the Champions League for 2 years for financial anomalies. That was well done. They did that quite quickly, and they used it as, look, these have won the Champions Cup in the past. We are acting against big clubs, yet they were low-hanging fruit. Nobody really gave a stuff about what they'd done. Plenty give a stuff about what Man City have alleged to have done. The tactics, as we see with the Premier League and as we see with the Big Six, is to obfuscate, to delay, and to try and find ways around things on technicalities. If you watch that documentary, I think people who haven't watched it really genuinely do need to watch it. Then watch it again, and then let it sink in. Because some of what they're claiming, as Keith Patterson would say, it's just horse shit. And it is. Really, some of it is just horrendous. To claim that you have, as a financial regulator of a football club, and you didn't really understand the rules, come off it. You know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly where those grey edges are. But that then says a lot about the rules and who've made the rules. You know, and so it's an absolutely fascinating watch. I think eventually somebody will grow up here and tackle a big club, and that's why we still have to be careful. The knock-on effect for us in all of this is we have to be whiter than white, so we can't even give them a little chink in the armour to attack. And it won't last forever. This will come to an end. My personal feeling is it'll end up in my personal feeling is it'll end up with some sort of sanction, some sort of financial sanction. I don't see how else they can do this. It's got to be some sort of financial sanction, because can you start ripping teams out of competitions 10 years after an offence has taken place? Just don't know. But then that's not necessarily fair on clubs who've spent that time playing by the rules as the rules were intended. And so there'll be lots of uproar still, and there's no easy way out of this for anybody. But somebody's got to grow up here eventually and actually tackle someone.
Yeah, I'm just going to stick the link in the chat because we've got a few people asking. So those of you who would like to watch it tonight, it's an hour long. Bear with us and I'll stick them in the chat. Yeah, what's your views on this one, Stu? It's been a big debate, and I mean, you know, I've got to be honest, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great watch, very well put together, and like I often say on here, it was in layman terms so we can all understand it. Yeah,
well, I'm glad that with Mitch's Wi-Fi going on and off, I thought he was saying to you and me, grow some hair. Then I realised he was saying grow up hair. That we can carry on with. But the two words that spring to mind regarding the Manchester City thing is creative accountancy. And what they've done is, it's very common with people with a lot of money or with their own businesses. They become kings in their own kingdoms, and they think they're untouchable in the real world. However, we are, in effect, dealing with kings in their own kingdoms. It's nothing new. The video that we sent you, Steve, it's not new information. It's just exactly how you've explained it. It's more simplified way of explaining it. But what you also have to take into consideration is that it's one-sided. You know, it was like a courtroom with the case for the prosecution, and there's no defense in that. You know, it's all one way. The word I think that will probably summarize how it's going to play out is procrastinate. And Manchester City will challenge the Premier League on every single level. And a lot of it's hearsay, a lot of it, and I know that most of the viewers will know this, Mohammed's the most popular name in the world. So one of the emails was saying Mohammed's going to provide the money. Well, that could be anyone. But the truth of the matter is, anyone who watches that hour-long video, it's quite clear what's happened. The Abu Dhabi United Group, the ADUG, are saying to Etihad and to Etisalat, the telecommunications company, right? You be the front, you sponsor it, but we'll pay the majority of it. But they're all owned by the same people. Ultimately, it all goes down to the top. So this is something that other clubs, I think, might have been in fear of what Newcastle could do with the might and the wealth of the PIF, but they haven't. And that's it. They've put Seller in, and that's it. But they haven't all of a sudden got like STC, Saudi Telecom Communications, coming in and saying, right, we're now going to sponsor that stand, and it's going to be £500 million a game, you know. But you only pay 20, we'll pay the rest. You know, so they know, and it's a great learning curve what Manchester City have done and achieved over the last 15 years. That's something that we want to do. But the word that Mitch has mentioned there, and we've reiterated quite a lot on these shows, is they want to do it cleanly, they want to do it properly, they want to do it professionally, they want to come through the front door where any finger pointed would just make that finger pointer look stupid. So I think the legal team of Manchester City will keep, for want of a better phrase, kicking it down the road. Because for me, the possible ramifications that Manchester City could have over the Premier League regarding any cartel business, or look, we could do this, we could do that, they could easily quite throw some shots back. You know, they're not just going to sit there taking it lying down or whatever. They will come back with something. And I honestly believe the Premier League are in fear of this. And it could be a case of, if it's not broken, then why try to fix it? That could be their mantra. But they need to be seen to be doing something. So I'm sure there'll be work going on behind the scenes. Look, we need to charge you with this, this, and this, but we'll drop this, this, and that. And when they're talking behind the scenes, I'm quite certain after watching that hour's episode, it won't be on email. You know, there'll be face-to-face meetings, and it has to happen, because the more you think about it, the more it really starts to annoy and frustrate for the common footballing fans. Sorry, you're thinking, right, well, if they didn't have that, that team could have won that, that team could have won that. But you wouldn't want to be rewarded a trophy like 10 years later and say, well, actually, you come first because we took it off them. That doesn't mean nothing, because remember, this game is for the fans, and sometimes those at the top forget about that. Hence the Brighton away at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. Sorry to switch subjects, but they sometimes forget who this game is or what this game is for, and it is for us as fans. And that's the way I see it. I don't think it's going to be a quick fix for this Manchester City thing, and when it is, it'll be seen as a win-win for both sides, where the Premier League can take the moral high ground and say, yes, we've ticked you off, and Manchester City say, yes, but you didn't get all those charges against us, and slap on the wrist, and they'll just brush it under the carpet. They can't afford not to, the Premier League. They really can't.
Yeah, it's one to watch that. I've pre-recorded a show with Ben Jacobs for tomorrow, and we do discuss it as well. It's interesting to hear Ben's views on that.
I think,
as well.
I think what you touched on this, Steve, before as well. Anybody wanting to watch it, it's done in a way that nearly every football fan should be able to grasp.
Yeah,
and it's done really well like that. And I think that's the challenge that Steve and I've had. Sometimes we know when we disappear down that rabbit hole, sometimes we're talking about concepts that we get very easily because we spent 5 or 6 years doing it. But that is really, really well done.
Yeah, well, that's how Steve Hasty explained it to us, Mitch. The word to use was, it's done in layman's terms. There's no new information for us, but for a lot of people it may be, you know, but we've got vested interest living across here. And so we followed it with probably more intent than others. But there's no expose for stealing a word from Ben Jacobs. There's no expose that, wow, I didn't know that. But it's explained, and it goes through chronologically exactly how it's happened or what they're alleging happened.
Yeah. Okay, great stuff. We will follow that with interest as well. But the documentary's pinned at the top of the chat. If you're in the live chat, just click on that. It takes you straight to the YouTube channel. Good to see Councillor Spenny and Chris Hall, 2 former panelists in the chat. Good evening, lads. Both asking a very similar question, along with a lot of other people as well. Spenny saying, how confident are the panel with the Harvey Barnes signing? Chris Hall says, hi, Steve, Mitch and Stu. Hope you and the lads are well. Quick question for you. Do you believe Barnes is on his way? Because I feel this deal has Barella, Tonali vibes. smoke screen, he says. Was somebody else as well asking about Harvey Barnes. So what's your thoughts, Mitch? Barnes, it certainly looks a lot more likely now. I think it looks more likely than Maddison did in 3 windows. Certainly looks as if Newcastle are just trying to dot the I's, cross the T's, work out the fee, work out the personal terms, and then we'll have another player through the door before pre-season starts.
It's gone quiet, and that's usually when the shit hits the fan. You know, it genuinely seems to have gone very quiet over the last few days on a number of fronts. And so I think personally think something is coming. Exactly what, don't know, but there's a degree of confidence, like you say, around Barnes that wasn't always around Maddison. And I wouldn't be unhappy to see him join that at all.
You.
I'll try to answer both at the same time because I speak this very in Chris a lot. And it's something that's very messaged me a couple of days back when he says Barnes is 10-1 on to sign for Newcastle. So there seems to be a lot more fire than smoke this time. The typically I see with it is Leicester and how they negotiate. They can't take they can do what they want, he's their player. They can't take 40 million for Maddison, who is a regular England international, and then say for someone who's not a regular international, we want the same money, if not more, for Barnes. So this is where it could rattle our negotiating team and say, well, hang on, make your minds up, what do you want? But for all intents and purposes, the guy's, he's wanting to come in his head, he's a Newcastle player. When I said last week that we'd have a signing by this time next week, I'm not going to claim carriers or do it or anything like that because they're both out of contract. That's because the information I was told was they weren't hoping to sign someone during the course of last week. They were expecting to. And they wanted at least another player in, at least one more in before training starts, which I understand officially starts on Tuesday because there'll be more tests done tomorrow. That doesn't mean there'll be a player in by Tuesday, but if Harvey Barnes is as far down the road as we're led to believe, then it's quite possible he could be in there. They still want more. And this is why I'm calm about it, Steve. If anyone out there thinks that Tonali's going to be our only main signing this window, they haven't really been following Newcastle United, especially over the last 18 months, and the way this club does business now. And we're watching the chairman's video, listening to the sound bites from Eddie Howe, etc. They know that they need to spend, but they'll spend it right and spend it wisely. And I still expect us to get at least another 2, 3, possibly 4 first-team squad players that are all as good as the others. And that takes us on to the links with Conor Gallagher. And I might shoot myself in the foot here, but my personal opinion is I don't rate Conor Gallagher as a player good enough to be at Newcastle United. And if we go back, Mitch, when we watched that game together, the Chelsea game, the last game of the season, when I was over in Dubai, and I was having a little bet, and I says, who's going to get booked first? Or who's going to get booked in this game? We went Gallagher. He just throws himself into challenges and he'll get booked. We don't need that. We're more methodical. But the way Eddie Howe's built this squad has been on unity, and it's been on togetherness, which is the same way of saying in unity, I suppose. But the idea is, if you're one of those players in that squad, you should feel privileged. And if you're in the team and someone comes in to take your place, you've got to look at that person and begrudgingly accept that person's better than me. So I understand why he's coming, but at least I'm still part of this squad. And because of the European games, I'll still get game time, and I've still got the opportunity to grow with the squad. But if you were Joe Willock or Joe Linton, whoever's going to be under threat of Conor Gallagher, you would look and think, hang on, this isn't better than what we've got. He's never mind the stats, never mind just on appearances, he's not better than what we've got. So that's why I honestly don't think he'd be one of us. Now, hopefully I'm correct in saying this, and I'm not laughed at in the near future when he signs for Newcastle. But someone like Harvey Barnes, he's scored more goals and made more assists last season what ASM's done his Newcastle career. So for all the ones that are saying the guy's a baller, he's this, he's our king, he's this, that, and the other. Come back into the real world and look, is that going to make you a better, is that going to make us a better team? It's not. And as much as we've all wanted it to, you're going to get to a stage where it's going to be the year 2036 and ASM's lovers are going to be saying, this is his season. Give him one more chance. This season, he will prove himself. We've got people who are capable and already in the last season shown that they're better and more reliable than him. And they'll bring players in who will be more efficient, more reliable, more beneficial to the whole team. And it's sad. We've seen players leave in the past, the Biazis, the Gascoignes, the Burrows, Supermax, etc. The good thing is they were never replaced by someone better. This time it's different. Whoever we get rid of will be bringing better players in. And that's the difference. We are going places, and the ones who stay in the squad who togetherness, they all want to be part of it, and it can only be good for us. So that's my little rant over and try and answer as many questions in one statement.
Yeah, Barry Hogan says we need to improve. McTominay and Gallagher are no better than we've got. Chiesa and Barnes are both potential improvements. And MF the Villain says get shot at Maxi and bring in Barnes and a young winger. And Stu says Trippier doing the brief meeting with Tonali shows the signs of unity and togetherness with leaders and mentality like that. The sky is the limit. Newcastle linked by Fabrizio Romano, who does have a good track record, it has to be said, for letting the getting the info first and getting in with some good early shouts. I had a look at this lad this afternoon because, as you guys know, I'm not one for watching any kind of football other than the Premier League. Dizazi, centre back at Monaco, being linked with Newcastle. One of a few defenders being linked, it has to be said. This guy's a centre back. Obviously, Livramento is still bubbling away. Tyne back in the news again, which will please Stu, I'm sure. But defensive recruitment next, Mitch. I would say if they can get the Barnes deal done this week, that it's going to be potentially a centre back, because we do know that we are going to need one at some point, whether it's this window or the next window. And of course, we keep going on the show as other podcasters do about potentially bringing in a left back. But this guy at Monaco seems to be ticking a lot of people's boxes.
Joseph, if I remember right, weren't Man U all over him not so long ago?
Yes.
He comes with a genuine degree of pedigree. The one thing I would say with Monaco, if we're going to talk to Monaco, where does ASM do all his rehab?
Interesting.
And so if you wanted to play the FF, he opened down hills in Monaco. And so, people seem to be always talking about looking at using swap deals to help with FFP and things like that. There's one that jumps off the page to me. But taking that aside, he certainly, from what I know of him, because I don't present him as a kid that well, I gather he's a front foot centre back, somebody who's kind of would be an interesting understudy to share, and so to potentially be building a centre back pairing that could be with her for the next 5 or 6 years, alongside Botman, that could be huge. These fundamental things about building legacies and about building something that could be the core of the team going forward. And they always talk about making sure that your spine's as strong as possible. So it makes sense to be looking at that. And also we've got to know, are we going to allow Lascelles to move on if he gets the right kind of offer where he could be playing every week? Then we definitely need cover there. We certainly need, in my opinion, something different at left fullback. But also, if we've got that at left fullback, then we've got cover there, and it makes Burn more likely to cover at centre back than a left back. And so again, it's about squad depth and options off the bench and options in the squad. So I think it's the kind of deal we should be interested in, because again, right age, is the mentality right? is he somebody who could be improved under Howe? Is he malleable? Can we shape him into the right kind of player that we want, or that Eddie wants? Does he tick the no dickheads box? All those kind of things need to be looked at. But it's an interesting link for sure. And I think it's the kind of signing again. We're going to be signing pedigree players. Make no mistake about it. We're not going to be signing nuggets. However, we also have to be aware of FFP that we can't afford an expensive football the way Chelsea could. At the minute, while we're still a little bit throttled, every move has to be the absolute correct move. And I would rather that move is made in good time than in haste. And so let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. You're nodding away there, Stu. You in agreement?
No, I was just getting a message passed off my wife saying she's going to the supermarket. She just wrote it down as a minute. Now, I'm with you, Steve, on the these players I get linked. I don't know most of the names, half the names. I don't have the time, the energy or the desire to start tracing and chasing and fall in love with players that will probably never sign. But I'm also in the same camp regarding Harvey Barnes. If they do start to negotiate, if Harvey Barnes signs for us or anyone else, they'll need a replacement. Would Fraser not be a ready-made replacement for them? Could he not be used as part of the deal? And even if it was just a loan and we subsidise some of the salary, it's a win-win-win for everyone. I touched on that Fraser is capable, ability-wise, to get in the Scotland team. So why wouldn't you want to run out for a team that's probably one of the favourites to get promoted next season? So I just threw that one in. It helps us, it helps them. Regarding this guy from...
Yeah, we've gone into some kind of thinking man mode there, Mitch. Have you noticed?
Pondering.
Am I back again?
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
You're back. You're back
I'm probably
now.
going to be hypocritical here when I talk about not being sentimental to certain players. But I thought Shaw last season was outstanding, and I thought he was hugely underrated. He always looked calm on the ball. And yes, we've all laughed at the amount of times he's got an injury. It's at least once a game he has an injury. But some of this could be pre-planned with the dark arts that we've been associated with and the shithousery, etc. And he's got such an innocent face, he may get away with more referees than others. But some of the passing and his ability and capability to execute these passes don't go underrated. He set up Joe Linton for at least 3 goals last season with 30, 40-yard passes, and he's capable of himself. So I think for this season, I don't think he needs replaced. So by spending some of the budgets to get a replacement or a substitute or someone to bring in, I understand the sense behind it, but I'm still a big admirer of Jamal Lascelles, who I think's been foot perfect every time he's played for us in the last 18 months. And that's what I'm talking about with the sentimentality of advocating or defending certain players. I think Lascelles deserves his chance to have a run out in a Champions League game and put it on his CV rather than be battling in the Championship or the lower ends of the Premier League. And I think he deserves that. So it's not an area for me that we need to focus on. The left back, yes, the links with Thierry have started again, but have they really gone away? As I've been informed from my Arsenal fan friend that he's meeting when they go back, which Arsenal have went back, he's meeting to find out if he's going to get regular football. And I don't think as an Arsenal manager, Arteta can say, yes, I will start you regularly, because it might be a case of he's going to have to then say, right, I want to leave. And if it means a transfer request, I don't think there's a club better than Newcastle for Thierry and for his needs and the requirements, especially the position Scotland are in, not as in geographically as I'm talking about in the football sense, qualifying for the Euros. And it always makes sense for me, and I've probably nailed my flag to this mast too often, but I genuinely hope we sign Kieran Tierney, because he is capable of being a left centre-back in a back three. He's probably one of the best crossers of the ball going forward on the left side in the whole Premier League. And he's defensively sound. I think he'd be a huge addition to Newcastle United. So hopefully we'll get him over the line soon.
Okay, I've got about 10 minutes left. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Over 582 watching tonight. It's been fantastic. Thanks very much for your support. As we always say, we never take it for granted. This show certainly becoming one of the very popular ones on this channel. So thank you for your support. Chantel, we always give an alternative view on here when people make it, and she says, I don't think Barnes is an improvement. He's average. All he has is goals and assists. The rest of his play is poor.
I'd love Supermac to answer that one.
I know, Chantel. Everyone's got the rights to an opinion. I think you're probably in the minority on the channel tonight. I think a lot of people would like to see Harvey Barnes come in. People think he is going to be an improvement. Roger, of course, always comes in with breaking news. He says, breaking news: a man was admitted to hospital a day with 25 plastic toy horses inserted in his rectum. Doctors have described his condition as stable. Thank you, Roger, for that update. News report. Lots of other questions coming in. My YouTube channel asks, it's a simple yes or no, this one, lads, because we've got a couple of other questions to get through. Can Isak and Wilson start as a front two? For me, I don't think Eddie will do it, but I don't think it would be an issue if they had to. That's a simple answer for me. It's I don't think he will, but I think they could, Mitch. Yes.
I think that's the exact answer I would give as well. I can't see Eddie doing it, but there's no reason why they couldn't. They proved they can play together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Stu?
I think they would do it if they were chasing the game, but I wouldn't expect them to do it starting. And they have to manage the minutes for Callum Wilson. We all know he's injury prone. And imagine they start playing him every game, then he gets injured. Why did he play him every game? Why did he play him every minute? And he's been at his most effective once he's come on as substitute on the half hour, when Isak's bamboozled them, run them ragged, and he comes on and picks the pieces off fresh as a daisy. So I think that's the way we'll be going next season, with Isak being the main starter and Wilson coming on and cleaning up afterwards.
Yeah. Where would Barnes fit in? I'll answer that, David. The squad. That's where he'd fit in, because he'd have to earn his place. Barnes is another athletic monster, says Benny, with quality. Trent, all the signings. Imagine what Eddie Howe could turn him into. Fabian Scher stumbled around more than Les Kellett last season, says Doug. Start with three and play sort of rush striker like we played rush goalie when we were younger, says David. And Isak and Wilson, 5 starts together, only 1 win. Interesting stat. Don't want it to happen too many games before Wilson's injured. 10, maybe 15, says Barry. Any time scale on the review of the ground, i.e. looking at extension? Anybody know?
Not that I'm aware of at the moment. I haven't heard anything on that side of things as such. So yeah, there's no update from my side on that.
Okay. Lascelles great in the background and a squad member, done well when called upon. Never moaned about not getting any game time. Eamon just
And
says,
two snidey little yellow cards from the bench as well.
exactly. Eamon says, evening lads, another fabulous show. Thanks very much. Jeff, good evening. Good to see you in the chat. He says, we've got to trust the process and let the club do what it needs to push us forward. After 14 years of Ashley, this really is a breath of fresh air for us. I did leave this one to the end, lads, because I didn't like the show to get bogged down in ticket talk, because we have enough of that on here. There is going to be another fans meeting. If you're a season ticket holder, you will have been notified and given an opportunity to put yourself forward. This one is going to be about away tickets. Any thoughts and what the best thing is that could happen? I've got to be honest, Spenny, and I did reply to you in the chat about this. I genuinely think they need to look at what's going on with the season tickets and stuff going on at the club. I'll read this out. David Appleby, who sent me a message today on Facebook. It's one of 3 people, and his was quite a condensed message, so that's why I'll read this one out. Dear Steve, have you heard about people having problems with a season ticket renewal? I've been a season ticket holder for 5 years in the Leazes End, sitting next to my brother who travels from Stockton. I filled in all the mandate for my season ticket, but because I didn't press next to proceed, they have taken my season ticket off me. I rang the club because my payment was to be out on Thursday. She said I hadn't renewed. I went to the box office on Friday and they said my ticket will go on general sale. I said, well, can I just buy it now? They said, no. I'm gutted. I'm just asking you this because if you know anyone in the box office, I'm going back up there tomorrow, 4 p.m. to speak to the manager. I've sent them 4 emails. I give them the supporter services email, supporterservices@nufc.co.uk. Also suggested he contact NUSC and NUST. That's what those guys are there for. Let's just hope he gets it sorted. So with regards to the away ticket situation, lads, I just think they need to get the home side of things sorted first before they start, messing around with the away tickets. And from what John says, our John from QTech, who runs our website, he more or less says ultimately, simple changes to the computer system at the very least would probably solve half the problems, Mitch.
Yep. And again, comes back to something we touched on. Why this rush to go digital everything? Why this rush to go paperless? Where was that drive coming from? Who was driving that? We've had a meeting about ticketing, home ticketing, that many fans were invited to, and we were told, yep, they'd be listened to. It was a great meeting, and everything was taken on board, and wasn't it fabulous? It's obviously not. We've had supporters groups of one form or another saying they've had great engagement with the club on ticketing. Obviously not. Where are these decisions coming from? Who's listening? Are they listening to the right people? We've questioned that before. Got a little bit of stick for asking questions like this because it's very difficult to sit here and be critical when the club are doing so well and we've got everything we wanted with Ashley out and we've got a club going forward together with unity. However, we were also told that fans meetings and fans liaison was super important. It was going to go forward with the fans in mind. Everything with the season ticket renewal online sounds like it's been complicated, probably overly so for something that could be done online. It sounds like there's been definitely differences between whether you access the website through a laptop, through a Mac, through a tablet, through a phone, and because again, not all of these things are always thought through when you develop a website to work on different platforms. Sometimes things go missing. A button which appears on one platform might not appear on your phone, for example. It's still there. You just can't see it.
Yeah.
Depending on how it's programmed. I don't profess to be a computer expert of any kind at all, but somebody showed me a couple of things with websites in the past when we've been developing stuff out here for work, and sort of you suddenly say, all right, that's why they couldn't send the email, because the send button is a white button on a white background with white letters of send written on it. And so if you randomly press bits of the screen, you might find it by accident, but it's there, but you can't see it, Nothing sounds like it was pre-tested very well, and it sounds like even buying tickets for the Cellar Cup have been awkward. We are still allowed to be critical when people get things wrong.
Yeah.
And I think we're being told that we've got people in place who want to listen, who are listening. But it sounds like there's not been a lot of listening done over this. It's certainly more than one. You say you've had 4 or 5 emails of similar type. And again, we've talked about this about me and Steve without stealing a lot of Steve Hastings' thunder. If we end up talking a bit more about this on Friday, it's not that long ago that me and Steve were sorting shit like this out for people. It's not that long ago that Biffa from .com was doing stuff like this for people because people didn't know where to go and didn't know who to ask.
That's Curry's doing. He's getting
absolutely. But again, we've got a situation where the club have left a void and they're expecting the trust and they're expecting Darren at NUFC in a way to fill some of that void for them. And the people that should be filling that void is actually the club. They should be taking ownership of it. And they should have the right people in the right place to be dealing with it. I'm not convinced they do. I'm not convinced they've got the right people in the box office still. It sounds like that individual that you've sent to use a phrase, come across a jobs with the ticket office at the wrong time on the wrong day because computer says no, and there's no there's no heart there. And I thought one of the things we were seeing under the new ownership was people who care about the fans and the club as much as we do. And unfortunately, there's still people in place at the club who were brought up on the Ashley way, and they still do things that the way they've always done, and that's unfortunate. But it's something whereby we've got to be not afraid. If we want to come back at people who want to have a go at us and say, well, you know, you're Saudi owned, you should be standing up for human rights and things like that, and we'll sort of defend and have a go back, we should also be able to be critical of the club when they're getting things wrong. And this sounds like a little bit of a clusterfuck.
Yeah, it does. Stu, it's you know, it's something which takes up a lot of hours on this platform. You know, we'll always talk about it if it's something that needs to be talked about. And you know, mixed bag tonight. It has to be said in the chat. Some people saying they bought tickets for no problem. John struggled. He had a bit of a nightmare. Other people with season ticket problems as well. So yeah, it's. I think they need to get this right before they start, you know, this next process about away tickets, because otherwise you're going to end up with lots of people who aren't very happy.
Well, the one word that summarises it all up with regarding the tickets, home or away, is contentious, and especially a successful Newcastle United. I think 2-3 seasons ago it wouldn't have mattered. Although the away ends were always getting sold out, it was just who was getting the tickets and who they were passing them on to seemed to be the problem then. But what we talked about last week about box ticketing and lip service and stuff like that, to me, this is what this smacks off, the way they're doing these e-tickets. Now, bearing in mind, you're listening to someone who answers a phone still like, hold on, can I do it like this? You know, it's old-fashioned. And as Spenny mentioned there, that's why I smiled earlier, he's for 4 weeks. Now, Spenny went to the club about 3 weeks ago and had a meeting with Sarah and a few others. Now, was that box ticking or not? I don't know. But he's been trying to get me attached to one of his family or friends. So it could be a little Britain bit where computer says no because they may not want me to be linked with someone who's got an accent like Spenny, or the fact that Spenny's a counsellor now. They might not want him linked with someone like me. I don't know. But taking the humour out of it, I've got my own account. I just got an email off the club today telling me that my account is being updated as of last Friday gone. And Friday gone, good friend, well, my bestest friend is the Heed. He was on the phone trying to sort the seller tickets out for the seller, not seller tickets, the seller tournament out for the Sunday, and he's put my wrong email address in, and yet he's got confirmation that I've got a ticket through him, as has my wife, as has one of my children, as has his dad, as has his kids, and it seems to be a word I don't like to use, but it's a clusterfuck of what's went wrong, and whether it's trial and error or whether we're all sitting here as guinea pigs, I still don't understand why you can't get a ticket, have the option at least of a paper ticket or a season ticket, at least have the option, because, and I know this is statistically proven, Newcastle United fan base inside the ground is one of the oldest in the Premier League, and some people will struggle with that, and I'm one of them, but thankfully I've got friends who can help or try and help. Some people aren't in that position where they've got people that can do it, and the more you get frustrated with something, the more it becomes a nuisance, the more it becomes annoyance, the more you just drop it. And the club should be in a position now where they're growing at such a rapid rate on the field, off the field, not in the boardroom or the plans for the future, but the liaison with fans, on a touch-to-touch basis, whether it's personal, whether it's on the phone, or whether it's by email, it's been left behind. And that's what's causing frustration with a lot of fans. Now, I'm going to get back there in August. Thankfully, I've got, like I say, I've got a ticket for the Villa game sorted, but will that be on my phone? Will it be on my nephew's phone? Will it be on my brother's phone? Will it be where I have to go at the ground and plead my case? And I'm sure I'm not an isolated incident. So there could be 300-400 people in the same boat as me come to the first game of the season. And imagine that queue at the box office. Imagine the problem that could cause. And this is what needs to be resolved. And this is where, if the club are doing anything wrong, and I don't like to point fingers, I'm a huge advocate of what's happening and I will continue to be. But as Mitch said there, and I agree with it, if they're doing everything right and we're sitting here praising them every week saying how wonderful they are, if they do something that needs to be tweaked or adjusted, then I think we should mention it. And how the handle of the tickets, to me, could be done better. And it's all right for them to say, well, how do you want to do it? But when you have meetings and when you give suggestions and they're not listened to or they're not passed up the line, then that it doesn't work. We've got a new fans liaison officer. I understand the guy's name is Matt, and he's very affable, very amiable, which I'm sure he is. Action speaks louder than words now, and this is where the club need to stand up and say, we hear you. We've put up with the shirt fiascos, because believe me, the designs have been good over with Castoria. I think all bar one, I think the designs have been very, very good. But the delivery, and it's day after day, you're seeing on social media, people are getting told a month later that they're not getting the ticket. They're not getting the shirt. It's been refunded. They're not getting, and then the shirt turns up, or then it doesn't turn up, and no one knows what's happening. And this is what's going to hold the club back. And it's also, most importantly to the club, it stops them generating money. We need to be in a position where they have contact numbers and they have people who are willing to listen and people who are willing to contact you back, not just by a standard email, automated email that says, thank you, we'll be back in touch with you. Someone will actually pick up the phone and show they care. And even when you're getting told no, if you think the other person's listening and caring, that no is more acceptable. And this is where this club should be improving. That's my only criticism of the club regarding the tickets and the shirts.
Yeah.
What time is it in Dubai, Mitch? Tom?
It's 10:10.
All right.
3 hours ahead. Look, can I just scatter something at the end of that? The next question I've got, if the agenda is now moving to away tickets, again, what's the rush and who's driving that agenda? And who is actually saying this is going to be sorted like now?
Yeah, but why does
driving
it have to be tickets? Why does it?
Why? There's no reason for it to be. You get the home ticket right, and then the away tickets you can come and address down the line. Why does it have to be done now? Who's driving the agenda that it has to be done like now? There's no need for that. So that again raises me questions. If I was going to go to Darren Neal's, who's driving this? Who are you listening to? Who are you talking to? What's behind this? Because it's certainly going to affect everyone. Yeah. And so, you know, it's enough to get people passionate about it. And to be honest with you, it just sounds like stuff we've gone over again and again and again, and it's history repeating itself, and it doesn't need to be. Yeah, it doesn't need to be.
Easy fix. And
Mitch, what's the most important part of supporting Newcastle is when you get that opportunity to go to the match. So when you get people saying, oh, look at them moaning, look at that person moaning, or listen to this person moaning, wait till it affects them. Then it becomes a problem. When you're getting your right to go into the ground, when you've bought a ticket taken away from you through some technical hitch or some person sitting there who's a job's worth, who's still from the Ashley area saying, no, this is how we do it. There needs compassion, Steve, for that guy who's wrote that letter to you or email. And they need to look at it. Each incident needs to be looked at in its own isolation and think, right, hold on, we can prove this. We've got the computer system here to prove this guy is a season ticket holder. Where is the harm in renewing it? Because bad news spreads a lot quicker than good news. And for him saying that now, that could cause, I wouldn't say it cause people to stop going, but it plants bad seeds in the head, but don't need to be planted there. Where a good story, well, hopefully this is the aim from him writing to you, Stephen, something positive comes from it, where the club actually show that they are a listening club and saying, you know what, we've looked at this, sorry, yes, of course, you're entitled to your ticket, here you go, we won't sell it on to the public domain as they threaten to. You shouldn't threaten people with something like that. You know, it should be explained on this. Yes. We see how it went. You've missed the deadline, but in this instance, we'll overlook it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's common
Simple
sense,
fixes.
but common sense isn't common anymore, is it? That's someone, I know it, what did he say, 5 or 6 years he's been a season ticket holder?
Yeah.
But he's probably only enjoyed a year and a half of that, so credit where it's due. Give him his ticket.
Yeah, exactly. All of the problems should be solved in a common sense manner, not instant knee-jerk reactions. Very, very true. And there's somebody made a point, which I'm going to read out. Yeah, look at us concentrating on all the off-the-field issues, because on the field is so bloody good.
Absolutely.
And Joseph Agnew says, very true words, but Man City will be out without any charges, which is wrong. Watch this space. Top brass will join Saudi group in some way or another. And Barnes is a better player for me. Keep the faith. Thank you, Joseph. We'll come to this one. Derek, resend this question, please, for Geordie's here. Geordie's there on Wednesday. He says, what do you think of the rumours of countries leaving FIFA and starting a new federation? Denmark, a rumour to start the ball rolling. Send it on Wednesday, Derek. We'll come to that then. As I say, it's not live tomorrow, but it's a great show that I've pre-recorded with Ben Jacobs. Tuesday will be Ross Gregory. Wednesday, Geordie's here. Geordie's there. And also probably Liam Kennedy. Thursday, Supermac. Friday, the Amigos. Okay, that's your full week. Thanks to Stu and Mitch for rounding the weekend off in perfect fashion. Take care, lads. See you on Wednesday.
Thanks, Steve.
For the next
Night,
Cheers, everyone.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. Their website is mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to contact the guys, email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Big thanks to New Workwear. They are an agile and dedicated workwear provider launched in 2018. For more information, go to their website, newworkwear.com. Big thanks, as always, to Media Arts for the help with the video side of things. If you want to support the channel, hit the subscribe button, become a subscriber today. Hit the thumb up under the video, which likes the video, and click share to share to your other social media. Click join if you want to become a member of the channel for as little as $1.99, or take a one-off payment for the cult membership. You can get in via this QR code if you've got a smartphone, or look for membership pack on the website, nufcmatters.com. What do you get for your one-off £25 payment? You get a scarf, a pen, and a cup, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. Don't forget, if you want a car sticker, all you need to do is subscribe to the show and then email John at NUFC Matters, and he will post you a free car sticker out. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. And we also support the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is the virtual matchday bucket where you can make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. The new Alan Shearer raffle is underway. 150 tickets at £1 a ticket. You could win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball from the 260 dinner. Enter now at nufcmatters.com. We've got a few events coming up. August the 5th sees Gavin Peacock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £10, and you can get them now from nufcmatters.com. Our Christmas event takes place on the 7th of December at the Tyneside Irish Centre, and that's an evening with Frank Clark. Tickets are £15 and available from nufcmatters.com. Finally, Waddle, Keegan, Beardsley and friends. The class of 84 is on at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on Westgate Road in Newcastle on Thursday, January the 23rd. Tickets are now available from the Tyne Theatre and Opera House.co.uk or telephone 0844 2491 000. That's the box office telephone number 0844 2491 000. We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for